Y'all. What in the world? Okay, that was really weird. Lynette's been texting me this evening, and okay, I need my camera to not focus on ghosts in the background. All right, okay, there we go. She texted me like the highlights of her stream that she's throwing together into a video for YouTube. And it's all the dialogue from this last brilliant event, and I just vindication. Okay, I'm just gonna dive right into it because I have a lot of wasps nest that I need to turn into something, and so I'm just gonna hang out here and warm up for a second. As my Hello Kitty hat is phasing through a wall, that's interesting. Oh my goodness gracious! I don't even know what to do right now because I don't know. Okay. I'm pulling up my stream manager so I can see things. Oh, there's a beetle in chat. Good evening, beetle. How are things? I'm having a moment. Just realized that my camera frame is cropped. Is that? Couldn't tell you why. Gonna have to get that fixed. Oh my goodness gracious. And actually I'm gonna zoom slightly since we are zoomed out. There we go. We're working with things on the fly here. It's all good. I cannot believe I'm still sitting here reeling because my friend being rude, camera. She pulled the Connie Sus thing out from a single tweet from John Hankey that almost no one else even saw at the time, and like so many of us, at least at the time, I'm fairly certain, had alerts set up for this. Like our notifications were primed, ready to roll. Because this was during the time we were just waiting for any news to drop, and like at the beginning of everything. I swear to God, she was the only one who saw it. One tweet. Hannah. Yeah. I'm literally just crafting medicine because I have 30 wasps nests and I'm trying to get them away. Whoops. New Apple Watch, trying to figure out the logistics here. Probably will have to move it so that the crown is on the other side of my wrist because otherwise then I accidentally press it and that's bad. No, there's nobody over there, camera. Thank you. There's really not, I promise. How's everybody's evening tonight? I'm just sitting here going, what? That's, yep, just. What? But how though? Oh no, oops. Actually I want this one. I have so many layouts now, guys, it's great. I've been playing with layouts, it's been fun. Okay, keep crafting. Load up. Just noticed I have like a giant scratch on my shin. Are you done? Are you done? Once I get the background a little better, hopefully it won't be as much. Because right now, it's a bit of an issue. Hi, Gracefully Annie. No, good. That's all good. Lurk if you want to lurk. Today is going to be a little weird because I am doing still more grinding, but I do... Oh, I never got those timers set up. Oh, and I've still got... I do want to... I never got those timers set up. But I do want to do, like, a, like, grind with me... like figure out how to do this in game, because there's a technique for mile grinding that I thought was pretty interesting. Hence the pipe in my house, the Mario pipe, which is the closest thing we get to fast travel in Animal Crossing. It actually is pretty fast. It's like, it works. I'm about to switch you off of autofocus. Oh. Like that. Okay, we swapped. I was brave. I swapped it off of autofocus. So I don't know. I'll figure out a way to do this. We might set up a stream layout on the fly, so that could be interesting. But also, the baby did not want to go to sleep. It was a problem. Okay, we're still working on it. So, but officially, I haven't put out the stream yet because the week has been a little weird, or today has been a little weird. But I'm gonna put out the stream schedule tomorrow for the week, and there's officially going to be a all-day stream on Friday for 2.0. That is currently the evil plan. Anyway, so that should be fun. I'm very much looking forward to it. Those are the two Sanrio villagers that we don't currently have, and then I think we're gonna also try and move in a new villager, because I don't know. I don't think that Toby is the type of villager that we need for reactions right now. Because like Toby is one of the I thought you had to actively move in a Sanrio villager in order to get their items, but turns out you just have to scan the card. So like they can just visit your campsite and hang out for a day and you get their stuff. So like I was like, oh. Oops. I mean, I have it written down. I have it written down somewhere. Shoot. Oh, I might not have that. Ugh. And I have too many. Do I have enough? Do I have enough do I have enough notebooks yet? Don't think I do. I don't think I do. Okay, here we go. Goodness, I have an adversaries thing. I have stuff from Wizards Unite in here. What? Even this is how I keep track of stuff that I'm playing. Okay. Okay. Is Imperfect Love, which means now I have Let's Kill This Love by Blackpink stuck in my head. A love strayed. How is life? I'm looking through one of my many notebooks to find out. Here we are. Oh my goodness. Okay. Lazy, cranky, normal. Okay, we need a jock, a peppy, or a sisterly on the island. Okay. I need to actually go through. I need to migrate this spread and then figure out who we actually need. Oh wait, okay, here's Cherry. We have Cherry. Do I have Genji in this? I don't. I have Kabuki, at least in this little pile. Oh gosh. I think I have Billy. I didn't get Jitters. I didn't get Rory the Lion. There's a Rory Lion. Oh, hello. Hello, Sean. How's everything? Oh. The Sean Street. Hold up. I got a thing. I got a thing, and I gotta show it to you. So just. Oof. Yes. Has she already done taste tests? Yes, she has. It is a delicious reposado that is just a tinge, not a lot, just a tinge smoky. It's not like mezcal, but it's like a tinge. Eagle River Brown Jug has the Terramana reposado. It's like really good though. Like I love the Hornitos. The Hornitos reposado can get it because it's damn cheap at Costco for what it is. But this, I am. I am and will forever be. It's the Rocks tequila. It is so good. Like, So, that I will forever be skeptical of literally any celebrity endorsed liquor. I will always be like, Two people so far have not let me down. Ryan Reynolds and Dwayne The Rock Johnson, because I can't do this with everything. There are a couple of whiskeys that I can do this, but I can do this with this. And that's damn delicious. There's like fruity notes in there. There's like floral shit going on. You can't do that with every tequila. And it's a reposado, right? So there you go. The Rocks Reposado comes endorsed. There's like floral and citrus things that are still happening in my mouth right now, and like a tiny bit of smoke. Basking in it. I'm just basking in it. Snag a bottle for D&D. Girl, I'll do it. Listen, it's only like $36 a bottle. I'll do that shit. We'll sit there and have that on the rocks. Not even an issue. Tell Sam to send to Venmo. Like we'll split a bottle and we'll have it for just for D&D and it'll be great. Are we finally done making fucking medicine? Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh, okay. Those are all of the weeds that were in my storage except for one. Oh, have you not seen the ocarina? Sean. Wait, where is my ocarina? Where'd it go? It's not of time. There is not of time, but it is an ocarina and it is a lot of fun. Oh shoot. Okay, so here's the thing you gotta do, Sean, and I'm gonna send you clips later because they're fucking adorable. Is you set up like a karaoke bar where you have like a couple of things, where you have like one thing that's playing like a song and you can switch it, a KK Slider song. You have like tape recorder, a boombox, whatever. You set up whatever instruments you want, and you set up a microphone, and your villagers will go to there and will play the song on the instrument you put out, and they will sing it. Villagers singing KK metal? Listen, they sing the guitar solo. Where did my ocarina go? Where was that? Actually, legitimately don't know where the ocarina... Did I put it in my... Where did it go? Green typewriter. Listen. Green typewriter. This is how this works here. Also, we finally have her. The Series 7. Ooh, ah. Photographs much lighter than it actually is. Like when you see her, okay, in this light she's looking pretty green. In natural light, she's almost black. The type of crafting bench does not matter other than the amount of squares that it takes up. It will not limit you on recipes. Movement controls? What movement controls? On where? On where? Huh? What? I don't know where my ocarina is all of a sudden. It's been in my way. Watch app movement controls? Okay, we're getting distracted. We're getting very distracted. Hold up. Accessibility. Hold up. This is very important. Hold up. Okay, hang on. I love the accessibility stuff. Like background sounds, like the rain stuff. I have that on all the time. It's like, oh no, everything's gonna be okay. Movement. Motion? No, that's not it. What do? Because as oh, clench, pinch, and respond? Excuse you? Okay, I'm gonna have to look this up later because we have goals, but I'm going to have to look this up later because it sounds amazing. Okay. Lemonade from the skull of our enemies. Assistive touch. I say later and then. Assistive touch. Okay, hold up. Allow assistive touch to be controlled by a game controller? Excuse you. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna have to set it up later. I really am, because I'm too excited. It's one of those days, so don't worry about it. Okay, what do I got? What have I got going on? Okay, we gotta find so many more things. So many more. Hello, Grasshopper. We moved Stonehenge. Stonehenge was temporarily in the way. We had to move her. Octavian! I know, it's because I've been time traveling, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's fine. Good. It's fine. Good, fine. Leaf is here. Everything is good and right in the world. Catch bugs, sea creatures. Okay. Okay, this should be pretty easy. Oh, look at this man. Yeah. Okay, thanks. So, okay, here's Norma. We're gonna talk to Norma. Hi, Norma. Oh my, little picnic basket. I can't. Ugh. Nowhere. Just here, but grinding my ass off for Nook Miles so I can give you the best life. Same with Dobie. Look at Dobie with his cherry juice. Oh. Been a spell. Oh, he's just, just so cute. Okay. Leave. Actually, I have a pocket full of weeds to sell you. Oh, he's selling Tia. You get up to 10. What have you shown? You show me you have 3 so far. It's just a matter of grinding up to that point, and you'll get there really soon. You'll get there like, I remember getting 10 villagers like really fast. I had a very makeshift neighborhood at first. It was great. It was lots of fun. Leaf says, yeah, Leaf says pumpkins are fun. Everything's great. Let's talk weeds, sir. 20 bells. That's double. That's 421. Okay. If you're super confused with turnips, hold up. I have got you. Okay. Copy link. Okay. This. Mayor Mori. He's got the best YouTube videos. He's really, really great. Basically, he doesn't waffle about, he talks about things that you need to know. It's fantastic. So, he's the guy. But basically, the stock market on Sunday before noon, a small pig boar person will show up on your island. She will offer you turnips. You can only buy them in stacks of 10. You buy them at a low. The lowest ish you can buy them is about like 90 bells per turnip, and you have to buy in stacks of 10. So that means you're spending anywhere from 900 to 1,000 bells if you choose to do this. Then, as the week progresses, you will run over here to your Nook stop. I mean, mine is in a different place, but you know. You will run over to your Nook stop, and you will go and say hello to the Tanuki boys. The baby Tanukis will then probably do this shit. Hello, because they do this shit every morning. And you run up to them and you say, hello, welcome, and you say, turnip prices. That's pretty shit, because I think this is like a Thursday. That is a terrible, terrible price. After they tell you your price, it will then change from 5 a.m. to 12 p.m. it is different from 12 p.m. until they close at night. So that is why you use the app that I sent you, because the app that I sent you has a turnip price calculator. If you do end up buying turnips and you set the going price for them, and then you enter the AM and PM, it's best if you do both. If you can only get one, it's still pretty accurate at predicting. It will then predict what your turnip prices will be later in the week, so you can actually turn a profit. The problem is anyway, so here's the thing about turnips though, they go bad after 1 week, or if you time travel backwards. Or if you time travel like more than a week, or maybe more than like 3 days, they will go bad. So you can't time travel with turnips really very easily. So there's kind of no way to game that. Animal Crossing is easy to learn, difficult to master. So, there you go. It is a lot about a lot for a game about gaslighting cartoon baby animals. There's a lot of subtlety to this game. Depending on what it is, yes. But it again depends on what it is. Because I'm not gonna pour iron nuggets into something that's going to be doubled. I will, however, all damn day, come over and give them stuff that's made with specifically softwood, because there's nothing that needs softwood. I have so much softwood, it's not even funny. So if there is a hot item that requires softwood, yes, I will craft the shit out of that and sell it for double the profit, because you can just bring in a whole pocket's worth of whatever the hot item is of the day and double your money. And especially if it's of resources that you have an excess of, like occasionally it'll be something that's made of weeds and you're just like, yep, here we go. But again, it's a double-edged sword, like it's double whatever. And again, that app has everything in it. So it'll tell you, like, if it's like the wooden blocks, no, that's not an item that I'm going to do, because it requires the normal wood, which is the hardest to keep in my inventory. So it's just one of those things. All right, let's go. Okay, let's remind ourselves, what is our plus stuff? Fossils, tend flowers, capture a memory, diaper sequence, catch bugs. Let's shake some trees. Are we actually going to do a 10,000 in an hour challenge? Who knows? We'll see how well we do. Ooh! Gold rose. Cute. Time to stand. You're not the boss of me, Apple Watch. Okay. There we go. We struggle. We struggle a lot of the time. Alright. Trying to get more gold roses. These super cool garden beds with the different, like... oh, Sean. Oh my goodness. Okay, so the super cool garden beds, the only way to get, like, the darker stuff is when you unlock terraforming. This is just a different path. That's how you get that. You missed like 4 days. No, it's okay. It is okay. It just, whoop, a lot of his muscle memory. Okay. I'm gonna say this once, Sean. Don't shake your tree to get the bells out of it. When you see a money tree with the bells that is ripe and ready for the plucking, you don't shake it. You whip out an iron axe and you chop that shit down. Okay, it has to be the one that you make with a piece of metal, like iron. It must be iron. You chop that shit down. You gather the wood, you gather the bells, you dig up the stump, you move the fuck on. There you go. I don't know if you have that recipe yet, but that's how you do that. This is how Zoe teaches people how to play Animal Crossing. Text me, beat. I'm sometimes difficult to get a hold of. Okay, cool. Wait for your, okay. Here's my trick. Wait for a day where all of your fruit has spawned. It might take a couple days depending on how long it took you to collect your fruit the first time. So it might take like a week to do this if you're playing and you're not time traveling. About that around here. But if that is the case, it might take like a week to do this. Wait, then look at everything that hasn't spawned fruit. If it hasn't spawned fruit, it is not a fruit tree after like 3 days. If you wait like a week and nothing has spawned fruit, it is not a fruit tree. Cut that shit down. Like if it is one of these cute little puffy puff trees and it has not, then it might be an old money tree and you can safely cut it down and it will be okay. Because you can still collect wood with a stone axe from your non-fruit bearing trees and your fruit bearing trees. A lot of people, so they don't get mixed up, will only have fruit bearing trees on their island other than these conifers. They're cedar trees. These pine trees. These guys. So they only have fruit or these boys. And that helps them understand what is what. And it's a little more efficient. I have conifers. I just haven't moved them because aesthetics. This is where we're at in our Animal Crossing journey. Is it aesthetic? No? Okay, then it's gonna sit over here for a second while I figure my shit out. This is why my beaches are fucked up. I have conifers. They're just in the wrong fucking place. Apparently I hate myself sometimes. I tended to my flowers, did I not? Do you see this shit? Did I not water those green mums? No, I just moved a mum. I didn't actually water them. Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. It's the work in progress. I do appreciate it. It's taking a hot minute. We're gonna get there. It's gonna be okay. You know, these things take time. These things take time. This is my second flattening. It's like once I got terraforming, I flattened the whole thing and then started over. And then I played like that for about 4 or 5 months and got bored and then flattened it again. I couldn't tell you why. Sean, making a rock garden. It takes time. It takes so much goddamn time. And even though one of them is slightly off to where I don't want, like, I should probably like break it and try to get it to move it again. I'm not fucking doing it again. Not. Unless I buy a whole new Switch to start a new island on. I'm not moving my rocks again. Mayor Mori has a video on that, so you can. The fucking rocks. Listen, I'm having a Reese's because just thinking about the mannequin method stressing me the fuck out. Stress. That's gonna be a gif right there. It's just me holding a wrist and going stress. Oh, thank you for the video shot. I do appreciate you. You guys, I calculated the Friday night. Y'all dumped like $50 into chat. Oh god, I'm on your big screen again. Oh, I'm gonna break your TV. Goddamn visage. Ooh, shit. Listen, I don't make the rules. Okay, no, but seriously though. It's like, I'll be back soon. We just have to get over like a little bit of Halloween chaos and then your wifey working chaos. And I'll be back. Don't worry about it. I'll be back. I'll bring Animal Crossing. I'll bring Terry Mana. Stop spreading stories, Sean. He's spreading stories. Okay. Watering. Oh. You don't even drink it. Don't even worry about it. Everything is okay. This might be just like a pocket setup kind of night, really getting my pockets figured out. Because I had like it wasn't a good week. It was like a decent week for turnips. And so I was able to turn like an 18% profit on turnips. Yes, it's an elephant can. There's a theory that the elephant can are the 5 stages of grief. I know. I know. What? What's your mind? What's up? No. Which opening? Go to an open plot? I don't have an open plot. Do you see this shit? Dig a hole. Dig a hole. Uh-huh. Did you not know about that? I should stop. It doesn't actually. So filling, okay, so there are people who have tested this. There are people who have tested the actual wear and tear on a shovel on all levels of shovel and now have like percentages and graphs. Kicking in versus actually filling in, as far as they understand, does not reduce the uses of a shovel, no matter what level. You fill in a hole, it is not going to wear down your shovel any further. No, I know. And the reason I don't hit Y is because it doesn't fucking admit it. Because I watched the video and I went, cool, data. I love it when somebody sits there and goes, I did this for a week straight and nothing fucking happened. Shovel percentages. Animal Crossing shovel percentages. That and Halloween decor is how we live our life around here. It's important, okay? I wish that any of that was hyperbole, but it's really not. Like, almost none of that is. So, welcome to my weird ass life of shovel percentages. No, I did not go get the pears because I got distracted by fucking shovel percentages. I have to move these bushes and these bamboo. Like, the bamboos are gonna get moved elsewhere. The bushes are gonna get moved. You test the shovel thing because I have people who have data. They have spreadsheets. Test it all you want. Dig a hole, dig a hole, dig a hole, dig a hole, dig a hole. No, it's all about, yeah, you do that. Don't get distracted. Don't get distracted. They have that. They have control tests. They have everything. Everything. I'll have to send you that video too. Fucking Animal Crossing shovel charts. It's important. Do I min-max literally any other thing? Fucking no. Do I min-max my shovels? Fucking yes. I loved, like, during the setup for our characters and stuff. Yeah, you can plant stuff without digging. It's just when you have the hole in front of you and you stand facing the hole, it's like, that's where I'm going to dig the thing. And so if you're doing very specific stuff, it's handy to know where you're going to place your stuff. But while we were setting up our D&D characters, Sam was like, oh, well, if you want to min-max your druid, you should do this thing. And I'm like, oh, I'm not worried about min-maxing. Makes gnome pirate druid. Hello? It'll place it under your butt. Sometimes. There's other factors there. Hi, Chris! Everybody, it's Chris. Hi, Chris. How's it going? I'm teaching Sean about Animal Crossing shovel mechanics. It'll sometimes do other than not, and like other things. Oh, biddies for Chris. Chris
Hi,
biddies. Oh, I forgot I had that. Forgot I set up that thing. Whoopsies. Hi. There's hats. Wait. Oh yeah, I put Halloween hats on them. It kind of works with the Corgo. It kind of floats, but yeah, it works with the Corgo for the most part. How's it going, Chris? We're just getting distracted all over the place. This is gonna go poorly already. I can tell. Scheisse. Did not strategically place my character so that I did not get knocked the fuck. Yeah, that's over. Alright. Oh. Street, you're way too excited about Corgo hats. Oh, Chris! Ew. Just miss my humans in general. Woo! Business cards. Being a blob is good. You were pushing yourself pretty hard there for a second, so being a blob is good. It's important. Business cards. Coming back, your holes are filled? Oh. Sean. Oh no. This is cute. I am loving the witch hat emojis. It's oh, shiny business cards. This is very exciting. Are you still grinding away on the website? When is that interview? I totally forgot, but I'm very excited about all of it. Here we go, hitting Y, Sean. See, there we go. Ooh. Money rock. Okay. Didn't work. Shit. Woo! Oh! Everybody go check that out. Everybody go check that out. I wanna see, I wanna see, I wanna see, I wanna see, I wanna see. I'm clicking on it right now. Hang on, I'm clicking on it. Excuse you. You have a mailing list? Oh my god, wait, hang on, you're gonna get my, like, actual email list. Hang on. Should I actually care about? Boop. Oh no, what happened? Yes, they can. Excuse you, showing. Showing. Oh my goodness. Hang on, there's a hang on, I have to get this. I have to get this balloon. Oh. Slingshot just broke. Okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Didn't you do this on Instagram or not Instagram, but on TikTok recently? Oh, I have the deck. Okay, also pre-orders for Lord of the Rings essential oil blends? Oh wait. I need to send my mom is now doing plant therapy instead of the other one. Oh, not that phrase, no. Put that in chat because I will approve that right the fuck now. Like, don't even worry. Wish I could wear it. Sean, chill. I hope they're already doing it because, like, I will send it to you. Just chill the fuck out. This looks so good. Why is a raven like a writing desk in Tengwar? Oh my goodness. There's tools on your. Oh. Our affiliate. Oh, perfect. I will send my mom your way. Yes, I will send my mom your way because she's ordering exclusively from Plant Therapy, and I know that they definitely want the the green moleskin dotted. Excuse you. All of this elvish resources. Okay, hold it. Cannot. Chris, it looks so good. You did amazing. Absolutely. So, like, long story short, go check out Chris's website, which they have posted generously in chat. I am now definitely on the email list for because it's just going to be like that. Posting again for reasons. Yes, everyone should go check that out. That is everything. Oh, you did so good. It looks really good. I'm so happy you got it. Like, posted when you wanted it to. And all of that good stuff. Oh my god. Yee. 7.5. Yep, Wizardway. Okay, there you go. At Wizardway Chris on Instagram. Sean. He's a poop waffle, but we love him. Ooh! English words. Right. Take the. Woo! Woo! Oh my goodness, so much. That had to be really hard to put together in a way that would be useful for people because of the way that, because of just the fact that Elvish is based off of Welsh and like, oh, Welsh is weird. Welsh is fucking weird. I took a single bite out of that Reese's cup and then Ooh, his Dark Materials too. That's not big. I love all of that. Alright. What did I break? Oh, fart. Oh, it's so cool. It is so cool. Eventually have evil plans for things to get translated. Shovel, okay. A shovel. Is a shovel there? Ugh. I have evil plans. The grind for pocket space is fucking real. Listen. I honestly thought I was gonna get more Halloween stuff going, but it's okay because we can sell pumpkins for the same price as non-native fruit. And then when cooking gets here, you're gonna use the pumpkins, and it's very good. Here's for right now. Okay. Oh, those. Okay. Oh, the Halloween event? I played for Mark. I played for Marcellus, but I didn't really play anything else other than that. I just played for him. Because he was like, ah, and he had like super ADD moment where he was like, couldn't focus on playing an event like that for even like the two, he's got like 2 villagers, like he hasn't gotten to that point yet, and he was like, he was running off the high of going trick-or-treating and wearing this cool costume where he got a lot of compliments because we integrated LED lights into his costume, obviously. And so he was running, he was like running off the high of that, and so it's understandable that he did not have like the brain space to be able to play a stupid event in Animal Crossing. The the Halloween event is like legitimately a lot of fun, but at the same time, you can skip it. It's not the biggest deal in the world unless you want the recipes for like certain things. Like I was able to get him the recipe for the spooky carriage, which the spooky carriage is a super amazing item. But if you don't care about it, it's not a big deal. And I played it last year, and I have all the DIYs for everything, so I'm working on other stuff. But it was fun. I just cleaned up his island a little bit and like sold a bunch of fruit and made him like 30,000 bells, and he was like, oh, wait, huh? Like, how buddy, is this how you do this? He's like, oh, Oh, I got it. And I have no idea if he's actually going to do it that way next time. We shall see. We shall see. Oh my goodness. Okay, hang on. Are we... I think we're at bio break time. We are at bio break time. Oh no. Okay, so it is bio break time, which means we're pulling the car over for one person, which means we're pulling it over for everybody. So this is the time to go and grab a snack or go to the bathroom or get yourself a drink or just get your sillies out. And we're going to listen to some music while we wait. And we're going to be back in 5 minutes. So see you back here in 5. Bio break. Okay. Good night, Sean. Thank you for coming and hanging out. Go to bed. Friday. All day. We going all day beat. I've got food upstairs so I can easily make myself food like really quick. I'm just gonna do like crazy long day stream. Great. Because Friday is when the update comes out. Will I have the 90,000 Nook Miles that I will need to get all the things? Probably not, but we're gonna try. Okay, go pee. I'm gonna go pee. I will see you back here in a second. have potato chips now, so I'm going to be excessively loud. But we're gonna have nice. We're gonna have a nice time. It's gonna be good. I need to find like 4 more fossils though. And here we go. Here's one already. We're doing good. Oh, hi, Sanitai. How's it going? Thanks for popping into chat. How is your evening? We're just... No, before the update. We'll see how it goes. Oh, I was just texting with Lynette about the bonkersness of the last Brilliant Event dialogue. She was texting me going, "Ah!" And I was like, "What? It has been a while, friend. How's life?" What happened? Oh. We'll see how many people who still play with you are like actually watching me. Turns out, like in the last Brilliant Event, Hermione set a trap for Constance, and Constance fell for it, and it looks like Constance was part of the unforgivable. Constance is the baddie. And fucking, I'm sorry. I'm still reeling at the fact that she got that a year ago off of a tweet from John Hankey. Like, not even a year ago. Sorry, where am I? When am I? It was like 3 months before the game came out. We knew that, right? We knew that. But like, she's finally been exposed, and so finally me and Lynette are just like, yes, vindication, and just reveling in the fact that like I was like slightly suspect but had no proof, and then Lynette had a single tweet from John Hankey with a question mark at the end of it and was 100% right. Oh shoot, I guess they're full. Oh god. Oh. So anyway, that's all I've got. That's all I've got. That's why we were like about, because feeling the effects of being actually vindicated and feeling like, heck yeah, we finally fucking know it. We finally fucking know it for sure. Connie is no good. It's really good. It's like, oh, okay. Breathing a sigh of like the same sigh of relief after green grass, where it's like, oh, okay. It wasn't crazy. I wasn't just like being way too hyper about it and reading into it. No, this is the thing they built in, and we caught up on it. Like, we picked up on it, and that was good. And so that feels it's really good. I'm not gonna lie. It's gonna raise a skull cup. Cross-threaded skull cup that now dripped all over me. Fantastic. Wonderful. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's the whole thing that I watched. She like sent it to me. She was like, "Yeah, to watch this." And I'm like, ah, because I didn't join in on that stream, and I super regret it. It's even one of the streams that like I didn't even lurk in, and then it's one of those things where it's like, oh, if only you had just even lurked, then like it would have been super epic, because Lynette freakouts are just the best. It's so much fun. Yeah, she was gonna go and like edit her YouTube video, and oh my goodness, I can't wait. Oh, I'm probably not gonna get that balloon. We're just gonna have to deal with that. That's okay. It's so good though. Oh, I'm so excited. So happy. I'm so happy. I mean, I'm mostly happy that we were right. You know? Good. Be. This is. Okay, there we go. Gonna have to reorder that later, but it's okay for now. Whoop. I think it did, and oh, I love Lynette freakouts. They're some of the best. It's so good. Okay, how many do we have here? 5. I need one more. There's one more of these little buggers. Have all of the fossils. Ooh. Oh, there's the money spot. Here yeah, I love it when I love it when I life right. I legitimately just love it when Lynette is right. Because she gets that whole just like, oh, I did the thing. I understood it. So that's wonderful to see. But also being able to sit there and just like scream along where they move like ah. It's so much fun. Shoot, dang. Where's that other fossil? Whoa, having troubles. Is it? Okay. Like an obscure spot over here. Right? A little bit. Like how does the story continue? Like, are we going to try and get Penelope and Grimm out? Like, that was a little bit of a story, like a spoiler for me personally, but like, oh, they have Penelope captive. I mean, like, the fact that the London Five are probably being held hostage, it's like, I mean, sure. What is our next move? Like, what is the next move here? And this is me from a production standpoint. I go reward the people who have been with this from the beginning, who have poured a lot of money and a lot of time into it, and turn it into an event, like a big event. And let us run around a park and like collect things like a lot like Was You Fan Fest, and try to free Penelope and Grimm, but make it bigger than that. Hire actors, make it an actual event where like we can unlock story bits that are actually played out and cast with professional actors, so that we can watch the story unfold in front of us. It's like, you know, if you have, okay, you register our emails, you register all of these other things. If you have these people who are all in an area for a specific event at a specific time, who have all paid for, I'm switching, hang on, who have all paid for tickets and stuff, then in theory, what you can do is you can push, like if you require their phone number for registration and say like, hey, you can receive SMS from us, then what you do is you push notification to their phones at the event that say, hey, 5 minutes be at this location, we think something's going down. Like even doing it from the voice of like Harry or Ron or Hermione or something, and then have an actual live action scene played out in front of them like it's a live action play that is like us unlocking things along with an actual storyline, and that's how we stop the calamity. I'd be so fucking down for that. Like do that. Are they going to? No. Warner Brothers, and they're not gonna do anything. I'm salty. Would it be fucking cool? Yes, it would. That's my evil plan, is I would make it a multimedia event, as I wouldn't, that's what I do. Especially for a game that they're, I mean, trying to put to rest? That's how it feels to me, anyway. They're trying to like push it under the table, not do any more with it. Like, which I don't want, because bad. This community is the best, but it would be really good for them to do something with it. Like, do something with the community. And I think that would be a really great way to honor the people who have stuck around. Personally, having people there acting out an entire scene and give it some stakes. You know, they pushed the storyline pretty heavily. Give it some stakes, give it some real life stakes. I think that could be cool. I don't know. I also fully realize that, like, my brain and the way I think about things is not how everybody's gonna think about things. So, like, that might not be it. I mean, people have been saying that about Pogo, too, for a long time. So maybe it won't. Yeah, right? Ingress is still running. And people have been saying that about, Pogo for years. And that's still going. So, like, why wouldn't was you? Boy, what you doing up? It's still late there. What are you doing? Hi, Stupefy. How's it going? Ah. We're talking about the last Brilliant event and like what what the connotations are, where does the story go from here? Are they ending? But also people have been saying that about Pogo for forever, and what should they do in order to like reward the people who have been here? Playing and failing miserably at Super Smash Bros. I feel that. Listen. Woof. They did cancel the Catan, for all intents and purposes, yeah, they did. It was a smaller contract, which at this point, with what they've got lined up, I don't feel like the Catan contract it was probably like maybe a few $100,000 deal rather than a multi-million-dollar deal. It was probably more of like a fun passion project for a couple of people. Maybe it's been backburnered. I sincerely hope it's been backburnered because I want to play Catan. I want to play Catan so bad. I'll hold out like a modicum of hope. Not a lot. We'll fucking see, you know? They did but that also was like still in beta. And like abandoning something in beta versus abandoning a game that you're like 2 years into the storyline to, like that's like a different level, you know? I guess that's how I feel. But I'm not a developer, you know? There's our Nook Miles. Here we go. Okay, these are the things we at least gotta do. I know, Pikmin was kind of out of the blue, but again, bearing in mind, that is a Nintendo endorsed title. That carries weight. That carries, you know? As popular as Catan is, it's still owned by the same 7 people, a very small German family, because I did research into this because I was planning on doing like videos on it. So I was like, okay, what's happening here? So I did research. It's literally owned by like maybe 8 people who are on like their About Me page. Like Settlers of Catan is very small. It's world renowned. It's consistently bought. It is a tabletop legend. Like, I love playing Catan. I still love playing Catan. I'm planning on buying Catan eventually and showing it to my kids. But at the same time, because of the amount of people who are actually on the board and all of that, I can't imagine that this was a contract that was pushed heavily. However, Pikmin, which I understand is like not the biggest Nintendo title, but it's still a Nintendo title. It's still a juggernaut. Like there's maps in Smash about that. Like, it's a thing. I mean, we just got anyway. Okay, I gotta read Stupefy. I personally don't play with right. Devs won't fix some of the most crucial bugs. Yeah. The Pikmin maps in Smash are chef's kiss. Fantastic. Kids love them. They're good maps. That is also, I need to edit this video, and I don't know when I'm going to, but I need to edit this video about WizU and why I stopped covering it, and a big reason is because of the bugs, is because of the fact that Warner Brothers doesn't want to fix the things that are wrong with the game. What happened with the open letter with Warner Brothers was amazing. Very few devs at this point, yes, there are very few devs in WizU. With level up. And another problem for me is personally the fact that Warner Brothers and Time Warner in general has refused to come out and denounce the things that J.K. Rowling has said about the trans community. And that might not be that might not be for everybody. Hogwarts Legacy, that unfortunately factors into this. I'm still really hyped for Legacy. I think that Legacy is going to be a really good game, and I think it could be doubly good if they integrated the Nemesis thing into Legacy. I think that could be really interesting, but at the same time, there's Chris. For me personally, just because of the fact that they have not outrightly, and in fact kind of very corporately, like been like, oh no, haven't actually denounced J.K. Rowling about what she said. Like during Pride Month in 2020, of no fucking less, like, I'm not gonna buy the game. There will be no playthroughs of the game on this channel. Like, I might say some positive things about it if I see that the development, like the dev team over at Avalanche has like pulled out a miracle, like an actual miracle. And integrated a way for the trans community to feel heard, despite the fact that, you know, J.K. Rowling is a fucking TERF. Do better. Anyway. Oh, people are gonna go in and specifically make trans and non-binary characters in Hogwarts Legacy just as a... That's how I feel currently, just about Warner Brothers. With OAN and J.K. Rowling and everything else with specifically Warner Brothers. Hey, Time Warner. I'm done. I'm done. You're gonna spread anti-vax crap underneath your network and gain ad revenue, and on top of that be anti-trans? I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm all done. No regrets on the rebrand. 100%. So long. Do I do an exposed video? Fucking maybe, because the people I actually want to work for aren't under Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment anymore. Hi, I'm Zoe and I want to work for... I want to work for Achievement Hunter. They're now owned by Universal. So, you know what? Amazon. Also, Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment, like all of those titles were sold. Like, let's just be 100% clear on that. Time Warner is in so much debt that they can't hang on to the Bond licensing. Like James Bond, they can't hang on to that. That's how much debt that Time Warner is under. They have to sell subsidiaries like Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment in order to stay alive. I'm just saying. Oops. Anyway, that's my thoughts. That's like admittedly not all of my thoughts. Like I have a lot of thoughts. That's all of the thoughts I want aired. Whoops. Because, like, if a bunch of people my age can put together thoughtful, empowering, and nice statements about the trans community right after J.K. Rowling said some pretty nasty shit on Twitter, i.e. pretty much all of the Harry Potter cast except for Tom Felton. I'm just saying. But they can't put anything out other than like a very obviously corporate statement. I munch on chips in your general direction. Anyway. People. I would say that all of the millennial cast, except for Tom Felton. Tom Felton, as far as I can see, enough as far as the research that I personally have done, that is not a thing that Tom Felton has done. And I don't know if, I know it, just because of their general demeanor online, it's difficult to say whether or not that that he is actually anti-trans or maybe just choosing to stay out of it. And it could be that he is choosing to stay out of it. And that's okay. I am miserably failing. Oh my butterfly. Just no? Okay. Ah! Nope. There we go. It's fair to like not want to risk it, but at the same time, the stuff that the turf community, and I shuddered, the people who hold to the ideals of people who are turfs or, you know, anti-trans in general, a lot of the time isn't just like, it's not just a part, it's not just like, oh, trying to stay safe for like your career. It's like not only damaging to people's psyche, but it's also damaging to things politically and keeping things fair and safe for those people, which really sucks. Like, you can't even stay silent on it at this point. Like, you can't even really stay silent because the things that J.K. Rowling said wasn't just like, oh, it hurt some people's feelings, which is really fucking bad. Like, truly is hurtful and like dangerous for humans to stay alive and not be killed. I personally don't think it's saying the wrong things. Like, 100% honest. Saying, hey, what she said is wrong and is damaging to people and is putting their lives at risk isn't, like, at this point, isn't saying the wrong things. It's unfortunately, that's me. No one's career will ever be over by supporting trans folk, like, in general. If anything, we have seen the weight and the support that the trans community has, and if you show support, they're gonna show support back. But also, the thing I find most distressing is, like, we need to acknowledge that those things are hurtful. Because at the end of the day, people like Uniting Wizards and people like Wizard Ray Chris are deeply emotionally affected by the things that that J.K. Rowling has said. Like, I watched my friend go through a fucking lot. My friend Chris go through a fucking lot during June when all of that shit was going down. Unless it's being sponsored, 100%. But what is incredibly amazing is the fact that, like, here's the thing. I'm gonna be 100% honest. Tom Felton in particular has not been in a big, like, we're gonna say AAA in lieu of any other terms in order to follow there. Any AAA movie title since Harry Potter. Meanwhile, his castmates have been, and they've been in larger in like larger stuff. In particular, Emma Watson, who has acted alongside the likes of people like Tom Hanks, and she has come out against, like, outwardly against. She has seen no dip in her career and is still, in fact, acting as a feminist representative and still speaking in front of the UN. Meanwhile, a lot of other people have not, including Tom Felton. And it's kind of no excuse unless, I don't know, I don't want to speculate. I don't want to speculate that he agrees with what J.K. Rowling is saying. Because what J.K. Rowling is saying is really bad. Duh. Like, really bad. Like, even talking, like, let's be honest, like, even talking about, like, where trans people can pee. Which is what J.K. Rowling in June of 2020 in particular was talking about. Emma Watson has seen no decrease in anything that she is doing. It has not affected her career in any way. If anything, it's boosted her career. Yeah, she has been in a lot of really good stuff. Like, but lately she's a UN feminist activist, and that's what she is doing, and that's what she's passionate about, and so that's what she's having fun with. And that's really, really great, because we love seeing that. But she also took the time to say fuck no to J.K. Rowling, and that, you know, and that's what we are seeing, and that's what we appreciate. It's not about, like, at the end of the day, if you isolate a portion of the community who has decided that an entire other portion of the community is not human and is not worth being around and isn't worth treating fairly, if you are deciding to isolate that person, like, that part of the community, like, what the fuck? I see, like, I see no benefit in that. I see no, like, what is... And the argument that I have seen from so many people online is, did we or did we not learn from these books, these Harry Potter books, and we're going to try and remove them from J.K. Rowling as much as fucking possible, because at this point we have to. Did we learn that not sticking up for what is right and what is good and the people who are good and the people who we love, at what point did that become wrong? And I see people in specifically whom I have met in the Wizards Unite community, who I've met from that, who feel marginalized and who feel wrong and who feel icky because of what J.K. Rowling has said. When I see them hurt, when I see them say no, when I see them say, ah, that hurts me, I immediately want to stand up for them and say, fuck no. Fuck no. I saw on that day multiple people within the Wizards Unite community, people whom I love dearly, severely hurt by what was said. If I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna listen to those people, because I am a cis white woman, and so those are not my experiences. I do not have, I cannot speak to that. But if what they say I don't like this, then my immediate reaction is Mama Bear. Whatever is hurting you, I'm gonna say fuck that. We're not supporting that anymore, and we're going to drink some tea, and we're gonna make snacks, and we're not gonna do that anymore. And if that thing keeps banging on our door, if that thing keeps making a ruckus, if that thing makes sitting here and hanging out and being us and having tea a problem, I'm gonna fucking do something about it. And at this point, the most I can do is sit here and talk about it while I play fucking Animal Crossing and not buy Hogwarts Legacy, because that's my choice. That's my choice. And that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, she's become Umbridge. Ooh. Not so spicy. We saw that on Twitter not that long ago. I love you too, Chris. And like, this is the least I can fucking do, is like sit here and play Animal Crossing and be salty. Like, damn. Because Chris is one of those people who has been a staple of the Wizards Unite community from the beginning, along with Uniting Wizards, whether or not either of them post with any frequency. And I'm gonna be honest, the top creators within that community do not represent those people. And a lot of the people who are in the top creators of that community have also come out and said, hey, guess what? This is real fucked up. I couldn't speak, I can't speak for any of them to say whether or not they're gonna buy Hogwarts Legacy. There is a certain amount of like obligation to buy Hogwarts Legacy because of like a lot of things, and like maybe they will, maybe they won't. I don't know. I can't speak for them. I also happen to know that a certain friend of ours had an interview with those people, and will I 100% support those people? 100% I will. I don't fucking care. I'm still gonna support them. Will I support J.K. Rowling? Fuck no. The WooTubers have been amazing in their support. Like 100%, like they've been really, really great. Am I going to support a certain someone who may or may not be a community manager for Hogwarts Legacy? And I really sincerely hope that they are. Yes, I do really hope that they are. Oh wait, no. I hit the wrong button. I really do. But we're not buying a copy of Hogwarts Legacy. At least not me. Unless, and this was the biggest caveat for me. If I see, and this is the biggest middle finger to all of that. Whoop. Gender fluid player customization features. If I see that, like, that's where I'll be like, maybe I'll play this. And then I have to see a couple of other things before I'll play it. But that's a big one. Because I've seen, like, other creators be okay with that. Whoa! Okay. Right. Mostly because at the end of the day, like, and that's fine. Like, no, that's great because that's your voice. I don't have any desire to dictate whether they buy Legacy or not. It doesn't matter to me whether they're vocally anti-bigotry. 100%. I don't feel like supporting J.K. Rowling anymore. I just don't. I'm tired of it. Like, I'm gonna be honest. It's fucking exhausting. Listen. All that shit's exhausting. If you still want to buy Legacy, but then you're also like, fuck being a bigot, fuck being a turf, sure, go for it. Still have to say fuck being a turf even while you buy it and be like, this is cool. I'm a buy this with full expectations that I can make a non-binary character in this. But Yes. For those who do buy it, I hope they all make the most queer, non-binary, trans-looking MCs and tag her in screenshots just to piss her off. I mean, that's goals right there. Might, you know, if I wasn't already not buying it, I might start that trend. Fuck you. Oh, very salty. Because what was said and the live streams that I watched where you were like angry in her and everything, I still hang on to those. Like, so like, not about it. I'm not here for it. That's me personally. Also, like, if other people, and if Chris specifically, like trans people who love Harry Potter, specifically Chris, they otherwise, I'm gonna be like, okay, cool, cool. You know she'd be down for that. You know she'd be like, can we just make a main character that's like super non-binary and take a screenshot and like that's all we're gonna do? And she'd be like, fuck yeah. Do it. Because Gita's awesome that way. Oh my goodness, it is past midnight. Okay, hey, Stoop. I love you. I don't want to feel you. I don't want you to feel like you're trampled. I have a lot of thoughts and feelings on this, and I'm sure that you do too, and I don't want you to feel trampled in any of this conversation because I have a lot of feelings, and I'd love to hear your feelings too. Feeling a lot of things. Fine. No, I feel the quadruple tasking. Okay, cool. I'm glad, because I will rant. Good sir, I will rant. Okay, I'm glad. But also, here's like the number one thing. No, yeah, like, whoa, that's big. Hang on. Like the number one thing. I'm a ranty person. It's all good. I just want to hear everybody's opinion. I want to make sure everybody else feels heard. If you're also down for listening, and that's really great, I'm down for that. I am also not the voice in this particular matter. I am not the voice to listen to. The only way I think and feel the way I feel is because I'm reading off of thoughts and feelings of people who are of this particular gender and experience and non-gender and experience. And so I look at the way that they feel and I formulate my opinion off of that after talking to them about their feelings. And so my general feelings are fuck you to J.K. Rowling. Fuck you, don't want to give you money. And that's me. But I also understand that, you know, here's Chris who has their thoughts and feelings and opinions, and who is okay with like other people and other creators spending money on this game, and that's really sweet. For me personally, at the same time that this game is coming out, like I'd much rather play Arceus Breath of the Wild, or Arceus Breath. I say Arceus Breath of the Wild because that's how I've been thinking of it in my head. It's Pokemon Breath of the Wild. It's Arceus. Legends Arceus. That's what it is in my head. It's Breath of the Wild meets Pokemon, and that's what I'm going to be playing personally because that's what I'm excited about. Steampunk Harry Potter, yes, I'd be 100% in. Oh, Pokemon Breath of the Wild, that's what it is. Like, that's what Arceus is. Like, let's be honest. I'm gonna switch to this because I also have to go to bed. But we will be back here. I don't know. Are we gonna do a week's worth of Animal Crossing grinds in preparation for Friday, or are we gonna play some Stardew? 2022. Yeah, that's when, I mean, I will probably still be hanging out and playing Legends Arceus in by the time that comes out. So Pokemon Breath of the Wild, I mean, it's Arceus. Yeah. Chris, at some point we need to figure out, you and me, we need to figure out weekly Stardew Valley collaboration farm streams. Like, that could be super fucking fun. Like, we need to talk about this because, like, as life is leveling out after we've moved, like, we need to talk about this because, oh god, that needs to happen. Like, so bad. It was really good seeing you too, Sanitai. I'm sorry about the rant. I got really impassioned and it happened. There was this much whiskey and that's much whiskey. About 2 fingers. Okay, that's a lot of club soda too, but that's how much whiskey and club soda it takes to get me shouting about things. Just so y'all know. In future. Chris, don't tease me. Don't fucking tease me. It'd be so fun. Don't even deny it. Okay? I have Smash. Me and, like, my kids mostly play it, but, like, I play it with them too, and we fucking bet it because he just announced his second game, which isn't gonna be out for a while, but, like, we gotta do some Stardew. Okay. Yeah, my kids play a lot of Smash, so, and, like, I'm decent if I play Sheik. I'm, like, decent-ish. Smash tournaments might have to be a thing that we organize here. We'll see. Smash tournaments with me not playing, just shoutcasting. We'll see how that goes. Okay, I'm gonna go to bed because are we friends on okay. Dude, I might DM you, just so you know. Sheik is okay. I'll get in touch with Mario and see if maybe we can do some Smash tournaments and some Unite tournaments and, like, see what we can do. See what we can fucking do. And then collabs with Chris on a Stardew thing. It's gonna be great. We're gonna have fun. It's gonna be great. I'm gonna go to bed. I have to go to bed now. Go to bed. I need to play more Unite. And I'm not gonna talk about Unite tonight because I have to go to bed. Thank you for hanging out and just being awesome, you guys. And now I'm just gonna sit here and wax poetic. It'll be fine. It took this much to get me to wax poetic. Okay. Good fucking night. See you tomorrow. Same place, same weird time. Gonna play some Stardew. Or maybe this. I don't know yet. I haven't decided. It's my goddamn stream. Good night.